You speak English right now. 1.4 billion people on Earth speak English. The global language of science, commerce, diplomacy, and the Internet. The language of Shakespeare, the American Constitution, and every international airport on Earth. None of that happens if 8 fireships burn facing the wrong direction on one night in August 1588. Let's find out what the world sounds like when English never leaves its island. The year is 1588. Spain under Philip II is the most powerful empire on Earth. Its treasury is fed by Peruvian silver. Its army, the tercios, has not lost a major battle in a century. Its navy dominates the Atlantic. England is a second-tier Protestant kingdom with a population of 4 million people, a navy built from converted merchant ships, and a queen who has been excommunicated by the Pope. Philip's plan is straightforward. Send 130 ships carrying 18,000 soldiers up the English Channel. Rendezvous with the Duke of Parma's 27,000 battle-hardened tercios in the Spanish Netherlands. Ferry Parma's army across the Channel in barges. Land in Kent. March on London. Depose Elizabeth. Restore Catholicism. End the problem. The plan is not insane. Parma's tercios are the finest infantry in Europe. The Armada is the largest fleet ever assembled. Elizabeth's army is a militia. If Parma's men land in England, the war is over in weeks. In our timeline, the English send 8 fireships into the Spanish anchorage at midnight. The Spanish panic. They cut anchor cables and scatter. The formation breaks. The next morning, Drake and the English fleet destroy or damage 40 ships at the Battle of Gravelines. Parma never launches his barges. The Armada limps home around Scotland. England survives. But the fireships almost didn't work. The wind was marginal. The Spanish admirals had prepared for fireships and had pinnaces ready to tow them away. If the wind had shifted 10 degrees, a normal North Sea variation, the burning hulks would have drifted back toward the English fleet instead of into the Spanish anchorage. In this timeline, the wind shifts. The fireships fail. Parma launches at dawn on August 8. 27,000 Spanish tercios land in Kent by nightfall. Subscribe to the Alternate Archive, a new timeline opens every week. Elizabeth's army is a militia. County levies armed with whatever the local lords can provide. Against the tercios, professional soldiers who have fought continuously for 30 years in the Netherlands, they are not competitive. The Battle of Canterbury happens within 4 days of the landing. It is brief and one-sided. The English militia breaks after the first tercio volley. By August 15th, the Spanish advance guard reaches London Bridge. Elizabeth flees west. She does not surrender. She will spend the remaining 15 years of her life in a guerrilla court, moving between western castles, issuing proclamations nobody enforces, slowly forgotten by a country learning to live under Spanish rule. Philip installs a Catholic regency. He does not annex England, he is too shrewd for that. He installs a Catholic Habsburg prince as king, restores the Mass, disbands the English navy, and requires English foreign policy to align with Madrid. England becomes what the Netherlands was supposed to become, a loyal Catholic province at Spain's periphery. The Reformation in England is over. Protestantism does not die, it goes underground, into the hills of Wales and the bogs of Scotland, into the hidden communities that will resist for generations. But it is no longer the religion of state. And without state sponsorship, it never becomes the religion of an empire. Here is the consequence that rewires everything. No English naval power means no English colonialism. No Virginia Company. No Mayflower. No 13 colonies. No American Revolution. No United States of America. North America in this timeline is colonized by Spain from the south and France from the north. The eastern seaboard, Virginia, the Carolinas, New England, becomes Nueva España del Norte, administered from Mexico City. The indigenous population is treated with the same brutal mixture of missionary conversion and forced labor that characterized Spanish colonialism everywhere. There is no English-speaking America. There is no constitution. There is no Bill of Rights. The political traditions that England exported to its colonies, parliamentary sovereignty, common law, habeas corpus, trial by jury, never leave the British Isles. They survive as local traditions in an occupied England, practiced in secret courts and suppressed assemblies. But they do not become universal principles because they never got an empire to spread them. The concept of liberal democracy as we know it develops differently. More slowly. Through different mechanisms. Through Spanish-American independence movements in the 1830s that draw on different philosophical sources, French Enlightenment thought rather than English common law. In our timeline, Spain declined catastrophically in the 1600s. The 80 Years' War in the Netherlands, the drain of colonial competition with England and the Dutch, the economic dysfunction of a silver-dependent economy. By 1700, Spain was a second-rate power being carved up by France and Austria. That decline was driven in large part by the naval competition with England and the Dutch Republic. Remove England from the equation, an occupied England cannot build a navy, and Spain's strategic position is fundamentally different. The Dutch Republic still exists. It is the one Protestant success story, having won independence from Spain through sheer tenacity by 1609. But without England as an ally, the Dutch remain a small, prosperous trading republic. They never become the colonial power that challenged Spain globally. Spain's economic decline, the price revolution and silver dependency, still creates problems. But without the existential drain of fighting England and the Dutch simultaneously across four oceans for a century, these problems are manageable. The Bourbon reforms that in our timeline tried to revive a dying empire in the 1700s are, in this timeline, consolidation measures for an empire that never died. By 1800, the Spanish Empire is not just the largest on Earth. It is the only global empire. There is no competitor. The world speaks Spanish the way our world speaks English, not because Spanish is better, but because the empire that spread it had no rival. So what does 2026 look like? Spanish is the global language. It is the language of the United Nations equivalent, the language of science, the language of the Internet. 2.8 billion people speak it as a first or second language. English is spoken by perhaps 40 million people, the population of the British Isles minus the Irish who adopted Spanish centuries ago. The Spanish Empire evolved. It had to. The American independence movement still happened, triggered by Napoleon's invasion of Spain in 1808, as in our timeline. But without the model of the United States to inspire them, the Latin American revolutions produced not republics but constitutional monarchies under Spanish Bourbon princes. By 1830, the empire had become a commonwealth of crowns rather than a single sovereignty. Democracy exists in this world. But it evolved differently. Parliamentary sovereignty, the idea that an elected legislature is supreme over the monarch, developed from Spanish municipal traditions rather than English ones. The rights framework is based on Catholic natural law philosophy rather than Protestant individual liberty. The result is a political philosophy more communitarian and less individualist than ours. There was no World War I as we know it. The alliance system that produced World War I was a product of the specific European balance of power after Napoleon, a balance that doesn't exist in a Spanish-dominated world. The great conflicts of the 19th and 20th centuries in this timeline are colonial civil wars within the Spanish Commonwealth, brutal, but not the industrialized mass slaughter of the Western Front. There was no Holocaust. The specific chain, German unification, German militarism, World War I humiliation, Weimar collapse, Hitler, does not exist in a world where Germany never unified. The German states remain a patchwork of small kingdoms in Spain's shadow, culturally brilliant and politically irrelevant. Technology is roughly equivalent to ours but arrived by different paths. The Industrial Revolution happened in the Netherlands and Scandinavia rather than Britain, the small Protestant states where capital accumulation and mechanical innovation weren't constrained by Catholic economic philosophy. It then spread to Spain's American territories, where abundant resources accelerated adoption. The cost is real. The political tradition of individual rights, habeas corpus, freedom of speech as an absolute rather than a balanced right, the adversarial legal system, developed more slowly in a Catholic communitarian framework. Press freedom in this world is younger than in ours. The concept of religious liberty took longer to arrive. The Spanish Inquisition's successor institutions weren't formally abolished until 1847. But the cost of our world was also real. The British Empire's specific brutalities, the Atlantic slave trade at industrial scale, the Bengal famines, the Boer concentration camps, the partition of India, none of those happen in this timeline. Different brutalities happen instead. History is not a ledger with a clear better side. The English language conquered the world because 8 ships burned in the right direction on one night in 1588. That is not a simplification. It is, genuinely, the mechanism. Without the Armada's defeat, England has no navy. Without a navy, no colonies. Without colonies, no empire. Without an empire, no global English. 1.4 billion people speak your language because the wind blew west that night. In another timeline, it blew east. And the world you would have been born into would sound completely different, and you would never have known the difference. What would it feel like to live in a world where English is a minority language? You can't actually imagine it. Neither can I. That's the deepest kind of alternate history, the kind that changes the machinery you think with. Until the vault opens again, subscribe to the Alternate Archive.